Welcome, everyone. I am Monica Vegalam. I'm a life and leadership coach, and we are talking about overactive mind, passion, and the arc of transformation for somebody who is of passionate nature. So, I'll speak a little bit about where I am and my process, and then I'm gonna bring in my special guest for today, Adam Quiney, and I'll talk more about him in a bit. So, spring is here, everyone, and I am so excited for it. And one of the things I notice about what's happening for me is lots of creative ideas about my business, about how I can support more people, about other projects in my life. And I am noticing that I cannot just shut my mind off after 5 p.m. or even 8 p.m., even 11 p.m. And the ideas have been bombarding constantly. And then when I sit with that, I'm realizing it's not a new phenomenon for me. It's always been there. And it reminds me of the time when I couldn't get off of certain habits like snacking, like going deep into rabbit holes, researching, I don't know, handbags or the best AI tool, comparing ChatGPT versus Gemini versus Claude. But the thing I notice is it's very hard for me to shut off my mind of one particular idea or the thing that I'm currently obsessed about. And I've always thought some fault of mine or some undiagnosed condition or who knows. And as I have been taking on more inner work, more transformational work, people reflected to me that I show up sometimes in an intense way and I'm very passionate and I'm very inspiring. And they mean in a good way. And I just couldn't believe it for some time. Then it all made sense. As soon as I got out of college, I straight went into startups. And I always picked work and courses in my master's, which are intense, which required that kind of high interest from me. And it made sense that I am naturally inclined towards things that require fire. And then I started realizing the shadow side of it is that I cannot shut things. As I have been doing more of the transformational work that I often speak about over here, I've learned to stop at a point, not in the way of forcing myself, because that was one of the ways I would do it, like force myself to stop and then beat myself about it. There's regret, guilt, etc. But I've learned to like stop in a very kind and gentle and compassionate way for myself without reducing the fire of my passion in the things that I care about. This is a little nuanced and complex. And the thing that Adam Quiney, who is going to join us in a bit, talks about, he talks about how to generate passion, about learning and building your capacity to hold tension. And from his background, there is some really cool work he has done around this, distinguishing what passion looks like, all the ways that it shows up. So we are going to talk about all those cool things. A little about Adam. We've been working together some time now, 3-4 years. And he's a master coach. He's an excellent teacher of leadership and ontological work, the work that's about how we operate and how we show up, rather than the strategies or the tactics that we use to solve problems. So I'm going to bring on Adam right now. Hey, Adam.
Hello.
Adam, coming into the show, can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and the work that we do in secret, confidential conversations?
Reveal all of my notes from our conversations.
Maybe not all.
I guess I'll share really quick, like my background before this work was computer science and law. So if you imagine the sort of mindset that would be suited to those kind of careers, very organized, very focused on optimization, very good at fitting things into a nice ordered box. And as long as things fit into a nice ordered box, I would do really good. And everything that didn't fit into a nice ordered box, I would shoehorn into a nice ordered box, one way or the other. So like, honey, I don't know why you think we've got a problem with intimacy. My spreadsheet cells tell me that I hugged you 3 times over the last week. And so that's fine. That's just her stuff. It's nothing for me to look at. So that's kind of who I was coming into this work. And then I guess really quickly, I'll share about 15 years ago, I was looking for an alternative career, found my way kind of haphazardly, maybe a little bit, into a program that was very rigorous and had the premise that if you want to create a powerful coach, you have to coach them really powerfully, which is not the premise of most coach training programs. And that work really had me work with really masterful people who could see all the way through all the layers of sophistication that I'd created to sort of appear very perfect and well put together. And look how likable I am. They saw right through that and were like, here's all the things that are amazing about you. And here's all the stuff you're putting in the way of it. And we could go into detail about that. But basically, you could say they like cut me whole and really began the process of me starting to unfold for the first time in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like a very rich process and something that we do over in the program that you lead and I partner with you on.
Lead in it. You're one of our members of our leadership team.
Yes, I lead in it too. It's called the Forge, and this is one of the cool things that we do over there, where what appears on the surface is almost always something that we put in the way, almost like a mask, but not quite, right? We learn to be that way and we think that's who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And that gets in the way of who we actually are and all the things that we care about and want to accomplish in life.
Yes.
Recently, you talked a lot about creating spaciousness in your life, Adam.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of our audience and usually people who follow this series, I can tell a question on their mind is like, I can't shut off my brain. And once I'm into a thing, I'm like so into it and I'm constantly solving that problem. So then what happens as I speak to so many people in that, with that happening?
Yeah.
There's an urgency and intensity about them that they learned.
Mm-hmm.
And the premise I think you are offering is who they are is passion. And then the urgency and the intensity is the layer upon which they have learned to manage themselves and manage the world, manage their interests. So how do we help someone see the difference between like, hey, I'm really passionate about this thing, and their intensity about it versus like the true essence quality of passion that we talk about?
Well, that's $1 million question right there. Because you've basically, in a nutshell, described both like what is leadership or transformation or any change that's really like bringing you closer to truth. What does it ask of us and how do we make it happen? And it also, the thing you've brought forward is also why most of us as humans aren't creating the change we want, is because it's really elusive. So the starting point you said was like, how do we discern that, basically, right?
Right. Yeah.
And the thing that makes it really challenging to discern is like, let me see if I can lay some planks, and please interrupt me if I'm talking too much or if I'm not clear. Deal?
Or maybe can I make jokes that you're talking too much?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool.
And dunk on me and all of that stuff. This is like a
Oh,
privileged
thank you.
position you have right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the record, I dunk on Adam all the time, and
Yeah.
he's such a sport about it. I made memes about him, and then remember the meme I made about you where I put you in the leopard jacket and
Yes. I loved it. Okay, so the quality of passion, one of the things that people that are passionate are exactly like you described at the start of the show. You know, we just, when we get a hold of something, when something inspires us, we have rocket fuel. And so passionate people are really reliable to work 20-hour days if that's what is sort of available. And if there's something that would say, hey, work hard on this, we can do that better than anyone else. We have that fuel in us, especially when we're alive, when the passion is turned on. And That's not good nor bad. It just is. It's part of, just like it's not good that my hair parts that way. It's just the way my hair parts. And I just, if the more I'm aware of that, the better I can style my hair. But that's all there is to it. And so the energy of passion is like deep fascination, excitement about, willingness to lean in, all of that. But what can happen is when we start to get afraid at some point or confronted, which is like a nice euphemism for fear. Confrontation is like easier for people to own. I'm confronted instead of I'm scared. When we come up to something that's scary and or confronting and that we have resistance to, like maybe I'm worried that I'm not pulling my weight at work, or this problem I'm working on is not resolving itself as quickly as I feel it should be resolving itself in my career. And we don't have this conscious, but like that means that I'm falling behind and I'm not going to get the promotion and people will get ahead of me, and so on and so forth. And so that fear shows up. And then what happens is unconsciously we take that rocket fuel of passion and we lean it into the fear. So we start to work insane hours. We try to throw more of like just being obsessive and productive and getting stuff done to try to resolve this issue that we don't want to be with, which is that I can't seem to get it solved. This is making sense so far, Monica?
Yeah, and it's reminding me of how reasonable it occurs. Yeah, this goes way far back, but in my life in different areas. But the example I can think of is when I started my coaching business, right?
Yes.
I was very excited, inspired, and I was like, this is the thing, and I'm going all in. And
Yeah.
I quit my job and I was here. And when things didn't happen according to my plan, like my back of the napkin math,
Yeah.
it had me really confronted. But I can only say that looking back.
Yeah.
Because at the time I was like, oh, I need to learn this particular skill and I need to put more effort. I need to reach out to all these people and I'm not doing enough of that. And all of those were valid things, not that I did not need new skills. So learning skills makes sense. It's very reasonable. Of course, there's mastery to be acquired.
Yeah. And it works is the other part of this. Or it works, and it, more importantly, it worked in the past. If you were the person when confronted and you just put more time and effort into something than anyone else did, then you probably moved forward further than the rest of the people did. Now, there's a diminishing returns to that, because what you're doing now is, even though your system, even though you are like, I don't really want to work, I'm tired, I want to go to bed or whatever, you can operate over top of that. And so what happens is people with this tendency learn that this works and get rewarded for it working. And then that becomes how they approach that fear ongoingly. And so they get further and further. You see this a lot in founders. Founders are very passionate people, because otherwise the thing wouldn't get created. Right. And they learn, and it's imbued in the ecosphere, I guess we could call it, like blood, sweat, equity, right? You got to put in the time. And so founders are willing to, they put in the time, but then there comes a point where there's diminishing returns to that, but this is the only thing that they know how to do, because their whole system is arranged on this basis. And so they try to learn new skills, they try to learn new approaches, they try to learn new whatever. But the thing is that no matter how many skills, approaches, or whatever that they have, underneath that, there is this system that says when you are confronted, the thing you must do is lean in further and spend more time and effort and energy than anyone else. And that gets them to a certain point, but then it holds them at a certain point.
Yeah, it not only holds people, and it's not only diminishing returns, but things start to break, right?
Yes.
Like my body started to break.
Yes.
And people are burning out and the culture starts breaking apart. When like the initial fire and intensity that takes a startup from 0 to 1 to 100 people, it won't, like, if it's not, like, things start breaking apart from then on.
Yeah.
And then they have problems that they cannot solve through more effort, more grind, more whatever, more skills, etc.
And they tend to pendulum. So it's, I can imagine when you were leaning really in at the start of your coaching practice, there'd be like moments of feast, where you're like in, but then burnout, and then moments of famine where it's exhausted, you're tired. And you see that a lot with founder culture too, where they're like pushing beyond the point where they're actually alive to anything. They're just doing it because they feel that they have to, or that's the only option. And then they get to a point of apathy and burnt outedness, and then they hang out there. And then what happens is things start to trail, and then they get back on and they're like, things are trailing, and then they fire up the passion machine from fear, and then they, throw themselves fully into it. So it ends up being that they cycle back and forth between the two ends of this pole.
Right. And I imagine there's also like resentment baked into it, right? Like the VCs are pressurizing me.
Yes.
And I think VCs do. I mean, they expect
Yeah.
certain returns. Like the system is kind of feeding it on itself.
Yeah. And plus VC culture is like this too. Like for a very brief while, I was sitting in on sort of like EO, entrepreneurs organization meetings for VCs. And one of the things that I'd hear a fair bit was VCs, they'd be like, yeah, if you really knew me, you'd know I was a workaholic. I work about 19 hours a day, 7 days a week. And like, zero sort of, and there's something for me to look at around that. All of the support they were looking for is like, how do I get more deals through, or something like that. So that, of course, the VCs, that's their culture, because often founders that have exited enough become a VC because they become good at seeing where to invest, and then they bring that same way of being into that place, except they're even better at it. They've scaled this way of living even further, and then they apply that downwards to the founders below them that they're helping, because they don't know, they can't see any other way to do it. Yeah.
And I imagine it's not just in entrepreneurship, right? Other examples could be, I know some moms who are really into parenting.
Yes.
They're constantly thinking about their kid, and they're constantly, well, I can't shut my brain off of how to parent better.
Yes.
Or how do I handle this particular part? And how do I handle that they're not able to stand up for themselves? Or how do I make sure they are independent thinkers? And that's one rabbit hole people can get obsessive about.
Yeah.
And there's like hobbies, personal hobbies too.
Yes.
I think you have some, right? Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, as you know, I've taught you to play Magic the Gathering when we were in Costa Rica together.
Right. But yeah. And you have like a whole world and built around it. So I can tell how much passion you have put into that part of your life too. Yeah. So then the question is, like it's very easy to say, well, just stop. Right? Yeah. The general advice. Stop. Watch something else. Watch TV or go to a movie so you can take your mind off of that one particular problem that you're not able to solve.
Yeah.
That's like the easy self-help solution. Yeah. But when people would offer me that, I would get annoyed.
Yes. It's very annoying.
And the second is like, you don't understand. You don't see how, but it's important, right? But what I'm trying to solve is very important. And I have a very well-structured argument about why it's important.
Yeah.
So other than just stop, how do we work with that part of ourselves, which demands a certain urgency and intensity, and honor the true passion that's underneath?
Yeah. I mean, just to give another version of what you were saying, for the longest time, like as a kid, I was always labeled habit forming. My parents would be like, oh, Adam's very habit forming. I'd pick my nose a lot as a kid. My parents would be like, oh, he's habit forming. Maybe I was just booger forming. Maybe that's what it is, Mom and Dad. But anyhow, Bay, my wife, would always be like, just don't eat all of the candy in the house, Adam. And I'd be like, it's like, I love that you can just have candy in the house and not eat it, but that's not me. And so that's sort of like when people are like, just stop. It's like someone telling you like, well, just be different than the way you are. I can't. I'm this way. So that's how we experience ourselves. It doesn't mean that we're actually stuck. There's ways that we can work with this and change it and create transformation. But the experience of someone telling us just stop might as well be like them saying, just have different colored eyes. Just be a dog instead of a human. What's the issue? So,
and it may also be their internal conversation, right?
Yes.
Like, oh, if I can just stop, everything would be fine. Exactly. I just need to stop.
they're probably doing the same thing inside to
Mm-hmm.
themselves for something that they're doing. I mean, that's always the way, right? We give
Right.
other people, it's fun to sort of remind ourselves that anytime someone is telling us what to do or giving us advice, that's the thing that they have operating in their head. That's how they are
Yes.
relating to themselves. It can give us a bit of compassion when people are giving us advice that's annoying. We're like, oh man, it must be annoying in their head too. They're constantly doing that. So, anyhow, to your question, the reason we say stuff like just stop is because we believe that this pattern can be interrupted just intellectually. Like on an intellectual level, the lines you draw are like, well, I eat a bunch of candy and that causes me to gain weight and I don't like how I feel. And so the thing to do would be to stop eating candy. Okay. And then we think kind of a little more like, okay, well, what we then try to do is tell ourselves, I don't like eating candy. There's no point. Why do I even eat candy? And then we hope that will be enough. We try to like yell that at ourselves or convince ourselves or say it enough. But it's the trouble with that is it's a friggin' lie because Adam Quiney loves candy. And two, there is some kind of payoff for me eating candy. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it. And that payoff, I can promise you, is deeper just than it tastes good. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't just force feed steaks into my mouth, even though they taste good. There's a reason for candy. And so the hard part of this work, when we're trying to discern, passion and get into it, is that at first we have to kind of be willing to accept that actually there's a reason I'm doing this that makes complete sense. And most humans don't want to slow down enough to consider that because we are so judgmental of the habit that we have that we're just trying to get rid of it as quick as possible. And that's what that sort of like, there's no reason I do this. It doesn't make any sense. I don't like it at all. I should just stop.
What's coming to my mind is this question, oh, is it a somatic or physical sensation? Is that the reason?
Mm-hmm.
Or is there like other components to it, like an emotional memory sort of reason? Or
Yeah. And usually it's all of the above
yeah.
because our system's holistic, right? So, a somatician, someone who works at the somatic level, is going to look for what's the somatic reason. An ontologist is probably going to look for what's the being based thing. But the truth is, it's all of that. There'll be some aspect of all of it. And the risk there is that we can get very analytical about it and smart. And the real work I find is one to really get, okay, there's a payoff here. This is providing me something. And then the hard part is that we have to get clear on what do we want that's on the other side of this. So we have a thing to go towards instead of just a thing to try to move away from.
Mm-hmm.
Don't eat candy is not, that's hard because it keeps putting candy in front of me and there's nowhere that I'm trying to get to. I'm just trying to stop myself doing something as opposed to create more space in my body. Okay, now I have a place to go towards. This is kind of like basic coaching stuff I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
But
It's
what?
it's
Yeah, go ahead.
it's reminding me of, I was once working with a teacher, a spiritual teacher,
Mm-hmm.
and of course the ultimate aim of spiritual work, as it's put in that tradition, is realize your oneness with consciousness. So that's what is said that we are going towards, like to realize that. And then the structure was that you don't eat these things and eat at only these times, no snacking, no napping, those kind of things.
Yeah.
And now when I look back, I see it failed for me, like, or I failed. Like, that's the story I have about myself, because I really could not stop snacking.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the work I was doing, meditations or whatever, towards decluttering my life and then getting deeper into the work, would generate all this unresolved tension,
Yeah.
which I would resolve by snacking.
Yes.
And I think like that's the payoff for me, that I get to not have that tension in my body.
Exactly.
I don't get to like feel it, hold it, or be with it. So two things come to my mind as you were saying, like, what is the thing we are moving towards? It has to be something that's important for you, that is aligned and that you care about.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be very far removed as I want to be one with God, right?
I want to be a better person.
I want to be a better person. Like I mean, we intellectually understand it, or it's also something that's very far out in the future, which is not quite understood by the mind,
Yeah.
right?
And it's also too general and far away because the thing we're getting from the habit we are doing is immediate.
Yeah.
So if we
Yeah.
put, the thing it's sort of like why we don't want to die from lung cancer, but just one cigarette is immediate. And then lung cancer is way out there. And that's why people keep smoking until eventually. And so it's that same thing. The thing we're going towards has to be defined and like there needs to be some kind of precision to it.
And you often talk about scaling the wall, right? Because there
Mm-hmm.
is a real wall towards the thing that we want.
Yeah.
It has to be gold for you.
Yes. On the other
Something
side.
on the other side, it has to be a treasure. Why would you scale otherwise? It has to be something like $5 million, or maybe for VCs, it's, I don't know,
Right.
$5 billion,
Yeah.
whatever that is. So, like, don't just stop, does not work.
Yes.
And having a very vague, intellectually far out future idea of a goal does not work.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about what works.
Yeah, so we need to go we're going towards something and then what is required is like our commitment and a container in which that commitment can be held. And then once we've defined that, we'll talk about what shows up once you do that. So the commitment is like I am willing to lean into this and let it change me, which sounds easy to it doesn't sound that's super easy to say those words, which is why we need a container in which that can be held, i.e. a coach, a program like the Forge, some structure that other people have, a leadership container, it doesn't really matter, but something in which your commitment is held by someone other than you.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am going to make up a million stories about like, well, here's why this isn't me breaking that commitment right now. Here's why it's okay today. And then, our commitment just weakens. That's what happens to all of us. So the container is really important because then what that does is it forces us to get to the point where whatever not snacking, if we use that example, is allowing us to avoid, there becomes no option but to face that thing. I'm going to elaborate on that. Sound good?
Yeah. So, for in my example, it's the unresolvedness of life, or
Mm-hmm. And
of things
probably,
in my life. Yeah.
yeah, and probably what you make that mean and probably how
Mm,
it feels inside when you're with things that aren't resolved. For me,
right.
it was like boredom and
Mm,
feeling like I need to do something and feeling very like I'm falling behind and I'm not using my time well and I'm wasting my time and life, it cascades, of course, but like, so as we take off that stuff, as we stop snacking or stop doing the thing in service of a greater goal, what happens is that we start to feel really uncomfortable. And that the way you described it really succinctly is we feel a tension. And the tension is that discomfort. And what we want to do is we want to collapse that tension, which then makes the discomfort go away.
mhm,
And the discomfort is going to show up and occur to people and be experienced in whatever way is best going to make them inclined to collapse the tension. First, so for a founder or a VC or a person like you or me, Monica, because we're kind of similar, we're going to feel like we're falling behind. This isn't producing ROI. This actually isn't making me go further. This is actually making me go slower.
I
Those
should
are
do something else very
yes,
quickly.
right?
I should pivot. I
Yeah.
should get more ideas. I should join this program to learn
Yes. I'll
communication
leave this
skills.
one and go here. Yeah.
Learn communication skills, learn this and learn that.
Yeah, exactly. And that will
Yeah.
close the tension because then I don't have to feel those things, which then repeats the cycle. I get to have
Mhm.
a short term feeling of, now I'm moving forward, but actually I'm not. It's just like running on ice. I feel like I'm in motion, which I kind of am, but I'm not actually making any real traction in my life. Nothing's really changing.
Would you say that once we start to distinguish the tension and like hold it, or at least see it for the first time, that's when the discernment between how that shows up, for example, urgency, intensity, and all the behaviors that it shows up in versus passion, like both
Mhm.
start coming to like our awareness more, like the separation starts coming up.
Yeah, I'd say that's when it begins.
Uh-huh, yeah.
So until we can slow down enough to sit in that discomfort, we can't discern because it just occurs like a need and then we do it and then we're like, no, it's just who I am. And then once we start to slow down enough and develop the ability to sit in that discomfort, then you can't really look at a thing and really get to know it if you're trying to hustle it off. And that's what we do with that tension. We're like, I feel this way, change it, fix it. There, I'm good again. And so
Mhm.
if we slow down enough to sit in the discomfort, we can start to learn from it. And then we can
Mm.
start to see, oh, this is actually a different texture of energy, or I feel different here than I do when my passion's really alive and sourced from within with my heart. Of course, no one talks this way, but like, these words are good enough for understanding what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
language is limited, and we all have different
Yeah.
language words that we identify with.
Yes,
Can
exactly.
you make a distinction between this thing that we are talking about versus the Twitter hustle culture, which is like wake up 4 a.m., cold shower, and there's all these amazing things people talk about, right? Like
Yeah.
ice bath and Huberman podcast
Yes.
sort of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Can you make a distinction between those two?
Sure. So, I mean, you could approach that Twitter hustle culture, Huberman body optimization kind of culture is a series of things we can do that have a at least allegedly positive effect on our body. They're agnostic in and of themselves. You can do them or you cannot. You can choose into them. You can choose not into them. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The people can approach that particular set of things from any number of ways of being. So someone who's got the quality that we have, that we're talking about here, passion, and when afraid, lean into the overdrive of passion, the overexpression of it, is going to approach that Twitter hustle culture like, here's another list of things that I need to make sure I do, and I'm going to do it better than anyone. But the idea being like, you can approach the stuff from Huberman from a place of like, I'm going to try some of that out and see how it goes. And it's really okay for me if it goes one way or the other. And like, with a lot of grace for yourself and a lot of curiosity and interest, you can approach that from like, I'm fascinated by this. And then there comes a point maybe where you're like, this isn't interesting to me anymore. And it's okay for me to step away from that. Or you can approach it from, this is interesting. And then as time goes on, you realize, or you don't realize, but you start to become afraid. Like, if I lean away from this, then I'm going to stop doing it. And then I'm going to not be as healthy as I could in 10 years. And then that becomes an obsession that's not really driven from like your heart. And
Mm.
that's kind of the nature of people that get caught in this, is that they're up to a ton. They're making a lot of stuff happen, but none of it feels that good because it's being done out of fear.
And even they talk about being in discomfort and holding the tension, right? If you're
Yes.
taking a 4 a.m. ice bath,
Yeah.
of course, there's hell lot of a discomfort to sit with
Yes.
and
Yeah.
hold in your body. But the thing that we are talking about is slightly different in the sense that, of course, there is somatic physical discomfort.
Yeah.
And there's also like, there's this feeling that happens, or at least my experience was like, what? It's just this expression that comes out. What I thought and what I knew was wrong. I mean, that's the story that happens for me. I think that's the breakdown point where my old way of thinking or seeing and looking at things is, I suddenly have this moment and I see that, okay, that was limited.
Mm.
That
Yeah.
was like in a box, like you said.
Yeah. You're talking about sort of the experience on the other side of creating a breakthrough or a change.
I'm talking about when we begin to see the breakdown, like when
Mm-hmm.
we begin to see the tension,
Yeah.
that's not just physical or somatic,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like
So,
it's mental, emotional, physical, and like all other ways that it could be.
yeah. There's something I want to go back and touch on just briefly before we get too far away from it, which is that, in these cultures, these communities, whatever, they talk about like sit in the tension, feel that. But what they're doing, like you said, is they're sitting in physical discomfort, but they are not sitting in what we call ontological discomfort, which is the experience of being with what you cannot yet be with, what you have a whole bunch of stories and judgments against. And I'm doubtful that these people are like, if I sit in cold showers, it means something bad about me. My hunch would be that they physically feel uncomfortable, but actually it plays right into their story about like, I need to be optimized and I need to be optimal because then I'm not wasting my life. Because So that physical discomfort is actually very comfortable for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when people come to me sometimes, and maybe you get this too, they're like, people talk about being outside their comfort. I don't know why this person sounds like Matt McConaughey a little bit, but anyhow, all right, Adam. I don't know why people talk about being outside of your comfort zone, but Adam, for me, what's comfortable for me is being outside of my comfort zone. And I'll tell you what'll break that person is great. Sit on this couch for 3 days and do nothing. And let's see how you're doing. And that person's going to feel horrible. That's what's uncomfortable for them.
Mm-hmm.
They're thinking, oh, comfort zone, meaning like skydiving, doing stuff that's adrenaline. Sure, that's for some people, that's what is ontologically very uncomfortable for them. But for other people, it's not that. Because if they aren't chasing adrenaline, then they start to have to be with something that is really the place where there's an edge for them.
Yeah. There was a time when I did 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. cold showers for an extended period of time. And I would sit in the physical discomfort. And then now, of course, I didn't realize this at that time, but now looking back, I can tell that it played right into my existing mental model of, oh, I did the right thing and I didn't do the right thing. And that's the ontological discomfort, right? Like, wait, there's no right and wrong here.
Yes.
And you often pointed that to me, like there's no right way to do this, and it would be very uncomfortable for me, but there is. So that's how I would go. Yeah, whenever I took on these habits or very disciplined things, it was from the place. And on the days that I took them on, I would feel good that, oh, I did something great. I did the right thing for my body, for whatever. And then on the days that I wouldn't eventually not take them on, for let's say in 30 days, there would be at least 5 days or 10 days I would miss. And on those days, I am like horrified with myself. How can you not do this? There's all this internal conversation about, come on, I just have to get up, just do it. And yeah, it was not a great experience.
Yeah. So this, the interesting thing about most popular, like pop culture, self-help, personal growth, personal development, hustle, all of that stuff is that it's all being very little of it is being done from a place of like, what is my body asking for right now? It's being done from a place of our mind being disconnected and disembodied, and then trying to think, what am I supposed to do for my body? And then trying to force that onto ourselves. And yeah, I mean, if you take cold I do like cold hot cycles at the end of my showers every day, and I like the way that feels. If you do that from a place where your mind is trying to control things, there's going to be times when it feels good because it satisfies the part that your mind is trying to solve for, which is like, you're not caring about your body enough. You should be better. You should do more. And it eases that part of our fear. But you can never fill that void enough. We can never give our fear enough that it'll go away. And the more we feed it, it quiets, but then it gets louder next time. And then we have to feed it more.
Let's talk about the arc of the transformation for somebody like this. We said, okay, there's this tension that you start to begin to see once you're in a container. And I want to add a caveat. There are containers which can feed directly into the existing mental model or way of being of right and wrong.
Yes,
and I have been part of those. And I will tell you, it's dangerous, not because they're doing something dangerous. It's because it looks like it works.
Feels like it too, at first.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the way to like really check, I think, is like, are you having a good experience or not? I mean, are you alive from the heart, in the words that you put, right? So the container, I think that's very distinct about what you create with the Forge, and even in our coaching conversations, is there's a lot of grace, compassion, and love. And that's also super uncomfortable to sit with.
Yes.
Because it's comfortable to have somebody tell me all the things that I'm not doing well, and then give me feedback on those. Not that it's hard to like be with it, but it's kind of familiar and comfortable because I am doing that for myself. And The tension comes up when you are in a container that has a lot of compassion, a lot of fun, a lot of like, okay, you didn't do the thing, no significance attached to it. Go try it again tomorrow, right? So I think that's important for people to choose such containers.
Yeah.
And then once we are in that container, you are at this point where you start to see that there is this tension and there's a way you have been about it.
Yes.
There's a way you have tried to collapse it before. Then what? How does the arc of transformation go from here?
Well, there's a very important part that we have to talk about. And it's the other thing that is really important in a container alongside, does it feel good? All of that. That's true to a point. But there's going to come a point where things don't feel good. If you're really turning to confront and to face and to be with the thing you've constructed your life to avoid being with. So let's just use me as an example. That's really easy. I learned to use my passion. One of the ways I learned to use it was to use my passion to ensure that I am not falling behind. I'm not going to be left in the dust. I am not doing enough. I won't reach the point where I'm 46 and like, crap, what happened? My life has gone, I've spent all my time and now I'm working at a dead end job and I can't catch up. So that fear, I learned to use my passion and being very like, I will put in the hours, I'll do whatever I need to do to ensure that didn't come to be. So basically, I learned how to do that in computer science, then I learned how to do that in law, and then I learned how to do that in coaching initially. And so the thing that I have devoted my life to unconsciously avoiding is that feeling. So if you are in a container that's really moving you through the difficult stuff to face what you cannot yet face, there's going to come a point where we come into contact with that thing we've up until this point spent our whole lives avoiding. And when we reach that point, what happens is it feels very noxious. It feels uncomfortable. It feels annoying. It feels all of the reasons that we avoided that thing in the first place. It feels like we're falling behind. It feels like I'm wasting my money. It feels like I'm wasting my time. It feels like I'm going to get outmaneuvered and then I'm not going to be able to catch up.
Yeah, that this container is not working. And
it's the reverse of working. Yeah.
Yeah. And the coaches are trying to are not good enough, or
that's the second thing that happens is once we start to feel that, we start looking externally for why we conclude something's wrong. Because I feel this way. What's the thing that's wrong? And then we look to the coaches, we look to the container, we look to ourselves, we look to the investment. Then we try to solve the thing we've concluded is wrong. Okay, you're awesome. I love you, Mr. Coach. It's just not right now is not the time. And then we try to leave the container, because if we leave the container, there's nothing holding the commitment any longer other than our story that we're reliable on our own. And then we can drop the commitment, and then we no longer have to be with that noxious feeling. Mm-hmm. That thing that we just described there, people think the way we humans approach that naturally is something's wrong and the work isn't working. But the deeper truth is that moment is when the work really begins. That's the first point when we're truly facing what we have heretofore avoided with all of our energy facing in our lives. And the work at that point is to, with someone else's partnership, a coach, a leader, a container, to actually learn how to unfold into that moment and be with it and sit with it without trying to solve it, without coming up with, oh, I figured out what I need to do. Nope. Don't figure anything out. Sit with this awful feeling and just let it exist. And once we can do that, something amazing happens.
I have a question before we get to the amazing thing.
Yeah.
There's a default assumption that if only this thing happens, then I don't have to feel this way.
Yeah.
Right? So then I'm going to go find that thing. I haven't found it yet, but I'm going to go find that thing. And looks like this is not the place for me.
Yeah.
This is not the thing that will solve that tension. So how long, Adam, if we hold somebody there and, hey, sit with this feeling, you don't need to solve it, nothing would happen.
Yeah.
How long do people sit through that before the amazing thing happens? Now, I know there's no right answer. I know it's quite individual to anyone, people.
Yeah.
But are we talking years? Are we talking decades or months or days?
Yeah, it like you said, it varies for everyone. The first thing I want to say is that it takes someone with a lot of mastery as your
Mm,
coach or your leader or whatever to hold that space for you. Because what you're going to do is blame them for how you
mm,
feel. And their job is to be able to take that blame, not personally, but just receive it and leave you with the experience that they fully understand and really get how you are left feeling and not defend it and then just stay with you and be like, and what do you need now? That I'm describing that with words that make it sound easy, but that requires a lot of work, and it requires people that have worked with their own coaches that have stood for them to sit through this. People like Monica here. That's really challenging work. So,
For me, that conversation was directed inward. Like,
mhm.
you're all good,
Right, right,
but
right.
something is wrong with me,
Yeah,
that I'm not getting the work, or I'm not doing this fast enough, or I should have known better, things like
yeah,
that.
yeah. So, what happens, we sit in that thing and we have to sit in it up until the point of surrender paired with commitment. If surrender looks like, you know what, I'm not going to keep fighting this, but then we leave or we stop trying to create the thing on the other side, that's not surrender, that's resignation. Resignation. If you have that container around you and the coach that can hear you, then what happens is you get to the point where, like, I'm still committed to getting to the other side, but nothing's working. And you can't intellectually get here. You just have to, you're in this process where you fight and try to do the old things until eventually you're like, screw it. I can't. I'm not gonna. And at that point, what happens is you stop trying to resist this experience and you fully allow it to wash over you, which is the awesome thing. So, amount of time, the last breakthrough, the one I just finished creating, was like 6 months. I've been in
Mm,
this game for 15 years. That was a freaking long breakdown to be with. It took forever because my system was trying to use all of the stuff that I've learned to keep me to do something new and sophisticated. Blech. Sometimes it's like, once we actually get to, sometimes it takes like 6 months to get to the point where we are like, I want to quit, I want out. And if we are willing to trust the container in that moment, then it can be like 3 days once we're actually there. So it varies, but I would say when people are really committed, somewhere between 6 and 12 months for the first kind of this breakthrough. I want to talk about the awesome thing just so we don't miss that, which is the awesome thing is when you get to this point and you finally get to the point of surrender, which cannot be arrived at intellectually by telling yourself, I just need to surrender. You get there by fighting and fighting until eventually you say, I can't anymore. And then you surrender and you sit with that experience. So for me, I sit with the feeling of being left behind and of failing and having failed and being disappointed in myself, and my parents are going to be disappointed in me. Instead of trying to resist that and arrange my life so that doesn't come true, I sit with that feeling. And when I sit with that feeling, what happens is I suddenly or eventually discover I can actually just sit with that feeling. I don't have to resist it or fight it or keep it away any longer. I can just be with it. I can be
mhm,
with my disappointed. And the amazing thing from that is all of the strategies that we've created in our life to make sure that we never have to feel that way, they just stop being needed. So we don't
right.
intellectually figure out how do I stop eating candy. It's just if you had a parachute on your back and suddenly you realize, like, oh, I don't have to protect myself from falling on the ground. You wouldn't have to convince yourself to take the parachute off or tell yourself parachutes never have value. You just would take it off because you're like, I don't need it. And so that's the amazing thing is we get to this side and suddenly all those strategies just kind of dissolve. We're
Mm.
like, oh, nothing around me has changed. And yet my experience of life is radically different all of a sudden.
Yeah, that sounds beautiful. And it checks out with my experience too. I think I
Hmm.
would say my breakdown was more than 6 months.
Yeah,
And
well, you got a
then
bad coach.
clearly. So I would say around 6 months or more,
Hmm.
almost 1 year. And then now I feel I'm on the other side of it in a sense. But the breakdown was I had to sit with was, oh, so much of my life is unresolved, like
Mm.
relationships, career, and this and that. No, they're not unresolved, but like that's how it occurs to me.
Hmm.
Like, and it stopped being something that I have to resolve and bring a closure to. Now it's just kind of like I have the capacity to hold that open loop or unresolvedness of things.
Can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
What did you make? So when stuff was unresolved, what was the story that you made that? Like, what's the meaning that you attached to? Oh, it's unresolved, therefore.
I should know better. I should
because
just.
you are failing, or you've chosen something wrong, or
I've chosen something wrong. I should have chosen different, or maybe what I chose was right, and now I just have to put my heads down and make it work.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. Okay, we are coming to the end. So one final question.
Part one of our 20-part series.
Yes, I am pretty resolved to bring you back on here. All right. So for people who are watching this and who are like, it's 7 p.m., my laptop is closed, and I want to switch off my brain now, but there's this still one issue from work I just want to resolve. And my brain is screaming, like, let's go just reply to that one email or this Slack message. What would you tell them about their passion?
Well, about their passion, I would just acknowledge them for the passion that they are. Be like, that's super cool. That's a measure of the fact that you are someone who is passion. And then if they were like, what's something I can practice? Do you want me to speak to that too?
Yeah, something around holding that tension.
I would say the first thing I would say is like, it's actually okay to just send one more Slack message. And then if after that you want to send another Slack message, it's okay to do that. And what happens is people get very judgmental. Oh, I'm doing it again. I shouldn't do it. And then what's happening is you're in conflict with yourself. So the first thing you can do is just be like, you know what? It's okay. Today, this is what I'm choosing. Actually choose it. And then if you wanted to practice something different as a person of passion, you might just like put that off. Notice how long you can put that off and just let it be. And ask yourself, what is this forcing me to like, what do I feel as I let this sit? And whatever you start to feel, that's the thing that's your edge.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing that they cannot solve through another thing. Just sitting with that particular thing is what long enough is what's going to create their capacity.
Yeah. Plus having a commitment to something different, plus having a container. But like, yeah, the starting point is like, what is being driven up when I don't do this? And can I begin to explore that? Can I sit in that a little longer, 1% longer, 30 seconds longer? And if you do that, amazing.
Yeah. Very cool, Adam. Thanks for that really nice breakdown. There's a lot of nuance to it. I notice the more I speak to you about this. And nuance doesn't mean that it's not simple.
True.
It's a paradox.
Yes. It's simple, but that makes it harder.
Right. And that there are many different pieces to it. And that we think, and it's not because the stuff is complicated, but it's because we have a certain way of seeing it that needs all these different pokes in the way, like to change it. Yeah. Thanks for this conversation. As always, so fun to chat with you. And I can tell you, this work is so magical. The word transformation is overused, so I'm not using that anymore, but so magical in the way that it's so simple, but also there's so much depth to it.
Changed my life and still does.
Yeah. If you want to find out more and you're curious, reach out on LinkedIn, and we are going to do more of these deep dives going forward. Thanks for joining us today. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Take care.